Good morning, good morning, good morning. Just waking up, have ourselves a cup of coffee. Hope that you pull up a chair and listen to our side of the story. We began this protection for DID. We were working with somebody at the time and wanted to expose all the things that we had learned about Emma Sunshaw. And me being an ex-client and terminating my services in December of 2025, shortly thereafter filing against her license in the state of Missouri for a dual relationship. And that's just the beginning. I have been detached from the emotional side of what actually happened. This was my therapist, somebody to whom I confide into. I told all of my hurts, all the things that happened to me, or I tried to. A lot of times she would stop me. She would say, we can only go as slow as the slowest one inside. I get that, but I've been in therapy since I was 2 years old. I'm 50 this month, and I'm ready to get the show on the road. I don't want to talk about the bread store or whatever's going on in my daily. I understand that the daily, anyway, I'm side questing. I got wrapped up in the mystery of who is Emma Sunshaw. And I presented here on this channel about those discoveries because it was just one thing after the other, like blown away at the amount of deceit that she has presented to the community. Unbelievable. So this is the beginning of a video that I will be discussing the hurt rather than the actual mystery of who is Emma Sunshaw. Coffee is gross. Okay, so this is where it all began. So November of 2023, whenever we began services with Emma Sunshaw, we were suicidal. And what had happened was we were being falsely accused of something, and we were just devastated, absolutely devastated that these fictitious lies would come up in our home. So there was that. And we became suicidal. And one of our friends at the time, who is a therapist, had reached out to Emily Christensen, and they knew that we were struggling with suicidality and was like, hey, I found Dr. E, the one on the podcast. Here, you ought to reach out to them and at least have somebody walk with you through these current challenges that you're experiencing. And we did. And we were also anticipating going into the Healing Together conference and speaking about our DID, our childhood trauma, and our experience, and how to present that publicly, right? And Emma had already been a presenter at the Healing Together conference, so why not? That sounds good. Like, they know what they're doing. Emma had invited us in, I'm sorry, it was Emily Christensen at the time, but it really is not about the name changes. None of this has been about the name changes. So Emily invited us into her website, System Speaks, so that we could watch another presenter present to the community and how they were going to do the presentation at the Healing Together conference, which was great. And so it was kind of like pairing us up in a way, and also me learning by watching other people. I'm autistic, and if you can't tell, I get stuck on the facts. And that's where I've been for a long time now, is stepping away from the emotions of the attachment that I actually had and experienced with my therapist, and trying to present the facts of what I learned. Like, we're going to solve the mystery, Shaggy. But that became this side quest of mine, when in fact my real feelings and the real things that came up. So I went into the website and watched someone else's presentation for the Healing Together conference. My presentation was about healing your parts with art, because my professional page, Brushstrokes and Imagination, I work with my childhood photos, and I reconnect with the trauma that occurred and the DID who was actually navigating and working through that at the time. So I paint realistic portraits of myself as a child, and go back and care for her and love her and do my very best to hold space for her, because the suit of armor that that little girl had to put on was incredible and astounding, to a point to where once I repeated all of this process and we go back to each age of the trauma. Anyway, side note, but at the presentation, I was really pushing the DID System Speaks community. And I was like, thank God for that. And thank God for my therapist, Emma Sunshaw. And if it wasn't for her and the 12-step program of adult children of alcoholics and dysfunctional families, I would not be here today. Listening to the podcast, Emma had spoke about a retreat that had happened in January. However, on that podcast that I had listened to about the retreat, Emma had disclosed that she had, there was some self-harm, that she went into the hospital. I mean, it was implied that it was self-harm after the retreat, that she had gone into the hospital. And I did not bring it up in therapy. I was like, yeah, okay. But I do feel responsible for her. I mean, I already had this. On Emma's podcast, it is a lot of grief and sadness, and the victim role that she plays lures people into supporting her foundations. And I had internal conflict about bringing it up in therapy, whether or not I would discuss if she were self-harm, but we never missed any therapy sessions. So I thought, well, whatever that is her business. And I also cannot care for her. I am here in therapy to be cared for. It has nothing to do with me tending to her, which is also part of it. I was really excited. I was like, hey, in therapy, can I be a part of that retreat? I would love to do that. Oh, yeah, sure you can. I was excited to reconnect, or to be a part of a community of people who are in the same like mind of trying to heal, just support each other. And so, the retreat sounded really great. And I would have the opportunity to meet the podcaster, Emma Sunshaw, and my therapist for the first time. And I traveled to Idaho in October of 2024. Yes, dates, time, right? Therapy rolls around, and I decided that I'm going to really work on me and the parts and the childhood wounds. And this was the first time that I had actually come full circle with therapy. Rather than talking about daily things, I wanted to work with the parts, engage with the parts. So I was doing my best not to people please. I have other channels on Instagram and on YouTube. I wanted to express to everyone that what is going on up here is not our imagination. And I decided I need to step back and I need to care for myself. People pleasing, which actually we call peeing on ourselves, PPN on ourselves. People pleasing, performing, perfecting, which is a 12-step, what's the word? Acronym. So we didn't want to perform, perfect, people please, and tend to other people anymore. We wanted to care for ourselves. And coincidentally, that was around the time, February of 2024, whenever Emma had decided to close down the website, leave Idaho, leave her then girlfriend, and travel, taking her family to Seattle. All of these things kind of coincide where I'm pulling away from Instagram to then invest into her community, System Speaks. And this was like this perfect storm for both Emma and I. I just landed. I landed exactly where she needed me. And she is really good at using people to the point to where you don't even feel like you're being used, right? So as she's leaving Idaho, moving to Seattle, she's back and forth. We're even having therapy twice a week, and she is having therapy with me while she's in the U-Haul. Like it's pulling, it's tugging at me. I become a member just before she leaves Idaho of a member at large of the System Speaks 501c3, whatever that meant, I don't know. But when she closed down the nonprofit, the dismantlement was this illusion of it was because of politics and how the Trump administration and nonprofits and all this stuff. But in fact, the month before, we had all of these earnings that I had audio recorded and all of this money that we were collecting to help people go to the Healing Together conference, donations of books, and people to be sponsored within the website. Anyway, so that's kind of like a side note, but it's also important because that recording audio I have where this money was and then oddly disappears. Whenever she, Emily, moved to Seattle, Washington, she literally robbed her own nonprofit. And that comes later. But that takes us back to trying to disclose all the things that I had discovered. And that's also the nuggets. Those are the breadcrumbs to which I got wrapped up in. I got wrapped up in the mystery of trying to untangle who is Emma Sunshaw PHD. Who is Emma Sunshaw? Who is she? And why does she move around so much? And being a grifter of monkey barring, latching onto certain relationships so that then she can get to where she wants to go. But she's got these 6 children that she needs to tend to, and they have special needs, and which is none of my business. It never was my business, nor do I want to be involved in that. It's so tangled up. My story and how I was manipulated to working for her for free, advertising for the nonprofits, conducting Zooms, the System Speaks community. But what actually happened to me? She can't dispute that. Somehow this has become a disagreement between she and I of what I disclose. Like, she's trying her best to shut me up because she doesn't want the community to know that she stole the money, that she's changed her name multiple times, that she doesn't want any of that to be known. So to mute me and use like a protection order as a gag so that I can't speak, so that in between these court orders, I am obligated to respect the courts by not speaking. So that's hindered a lot of my visibility and being able to verbalize what exactly happened, because I'm doing my best to defend myself in court. Well, it turns out, as each of you have listened to the past audios, the courts do not want to mute me from telling my story. That's my First Amendment right. But what they can do is, if Emma Sunshaw was in the state of Washington, I cannot produce those audio recordings of our therapy sessions. And the reason why I recorded the audio recordings is because I'm autistic, I am also dyslexic, and I also am multiple. So I have all of these things going on, a learning disability, being able to retain things, and also knowing that I switch so quickly that I'm probably saying things that I don't recall that I'm saying to her. I want to learn. I want to get better. So I would use these audio recordings going back and going, okay, this is how we do it, and this is what we're doing next. And you already told her that, so don't retell her that. Let's go on. Thanks. Thanks for listening. Thanks for taking the time, 20 minutes out of your day, to sit and have some coffee with me this morning and allow me to share, just to try to get things into words, what exactly took place, and to begin touching those feelings of my own experience rather than solving a mystery. Who is Emma Sunshaw? Who the fuck cares?